What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, here making this video with you today. Got some pretty big news to let you know about. So first of all, though, I apologize. My last video was a little late getting up. It was like really late getting up for day 3 of training camp. I was having some technical issues, which, as you guys probably know, is a common thing. It happens occasionally. My computer's a bit older and so on and so forth, so you know, from time to time I have some issues, but I worked through it, got it up. Didn't get to actually make like a day 4 video for training camp because of some of those issues, so I will kind of, you know, talk about that a little bit today, at least just some of the notable things. And then there was some big news you know, that broke and came out today that I want to talk about. So real quick, let's just talk about training camp day 4, which was yesterday, and that, you know, wrapped up the end of the first week. So real quick, I don't have any of the you know, live tweets from the media and stuff. I don't have any of that available right now to tell you exactly like the highlights and stuff, but I have you know, some information, some articles and stuff that I was going over to talk about some of the key points. So apparently day 4 yesterday of training camp, you know, this ongoing quarterback battle between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen, apparently you know, they both had struggles. So, you know, day 1 and day 2, Ryan Fitzpatrick was apparently killing it. Josh Rosen was struggling. Day 3, Ryan Fitzpatrick struggled, but Josh Rosen picked it up. And apparently on day 4, they both kind of sucked. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all. And obviously it's still early in camp, but I don't know about y'all, but that doesn't seem like progress to me. You know, but whatever, you know, what do I know, right? So look, man, I mean, it's troubling. I mean, obviously it's only training, and it's gonna get a little worse here in a minute once I get to the big news that just broke earlier today. But it's I mean, because I've been telling you, look, for a long time, and look, this is training camp, so obviously, first of all, you know, you gotta temper yourself one way or the other, good or bad, right? You know, we're not gonna know for sure, you know, until things unfold. But, you know, as, you know, fans, as, you know, somebody who does a video, right, like, you know, we can take the information that we have available to us and we can make the best evaluations possible. And so look, I mean, from my perspective, the offensive line is going to be pretty bad. And so I told you these quarterbacks are going to struggle, especially when it does get to live fire. And we should be careful about, you know, jumping on the hype train right now in the offseason, you know, when Ryan Fitzpatrick was killing it in the first two days of training camp, right? Or, you know, if Josh Rosen picks it up on day 3, right? Like, because look, man, I get it. You know, I know everybody wants to be all optimistic and blah, 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 but it's just, it's not, you know, it's false optimism, because you're just fooling yourselves into higher expectations than what should be set, and then you're going to set yourself up for disappointment. Trust me, this is something I know very well. So, you know, I can't go into this thing like telling everybody, you know, oh, that everything's just going to be fucking fantastic, right? Right? Because, like, you know, I keep an eye on some of the other podcasters and YouTubers and stuff that make, you know, so like Dudley Do Wrong and Phins Talk, right? And they're good guys, and they all mean well, and, you know, whatever, they're good fans or whatever. But, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, they don't really, you know, talk about some of the things that I talk about, or point some of these things out, and they do. Look, I'm not trying to criticize anybody for trying to be optimistic or hopeful, but, you know, the way that they approach things and view things, to me, is a little naive and unrealistic, right? You know, because they're like, I saw you know, the headlines of their you know, some of their videos, and you know, they're like, oh, after day 3, they're like, oh, is Josh Rosen gonna you know, jump Ryan Fitzpatrick in the you know, quarterback battle, blah blah blah, whatever the fuck, right? After he did well in day 3 and Fitzpatrick didn't do so well. Well, then look, then they both didn't do well in day 4, right? So, I mean, look, I don't know, whatever. You know, people, it's silly to me, because like I said, I mean, I can't sell false hope to people, right? And to me, you know, the factors at hand, you know, and everything, the information at hand just doesn't add up to, you know, a successful season for this team, right? So anyway, I'm going to go through this article a little bit. The Miami Dolphins have been bracing for a long, lengthy battle at the quarterback position. Ever since Miami finalized the trade to bring in quarterback Josh Rosen, it was apparent that this team was going to need plenty of time to figure out exactly what they have and exactly how they need to proceed. And after the first 4 days of training camp, we don't appear to be any closer to a solution. The first 2 days of camp were shaded towards veteran Fitzpatrick before Rosen rebounded to have his best practice with the team on Saturday. Sunday's practice provided no clarity, and not because both the contenders were lights out. As a matter of fact, all accounts on hand, and Davey said said the same thing. Both the Dolphins passers had a bad day at the office. Whether it was Ryan Fitzpatrick's mishandled exchange and a near interception to Xavier Howard or Josh Rosen's penchant to check down, the Dolphins offense suffered their most stagnant practice of 2019 on Sunday. Look, guys, I don't know why anybody thinks this is going to get any better. It's not. These quarterbacks, first of all, we know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is. He is not a very good quarterback. He's just not, right? Also, actually, matter of fact, in this video, there was a dude, another YouTuber, he does a sports, and he talks about, it's football, but like all the teams and stuff. There were a couple good videos that explained Josh Rosen and Ryan Fitzpatrick pretty well. I'll see if I can find those again. I subscribe to his channel, so I think I should be able to find them. I'll put the link of those videos into the description box so you can watch them. There were a couple things I disagreed with, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty spot on. If you guys watch my videos, then you'll know what I disagreed with. But I thought, like, for example, I'll tell you what I did agree with. So when he talked about Josh Rosen, look, and I've said this, I think he's a talented guy. I think he's got potential, but I don't think Miami is going to be the spot where he gets to realize that potential. Because, you know, he pointed out that Rosen's offensive line was part of it, you know, why he, you know, struggled so bad last year. And that's absolutely correct, but he's not going to get an improvement in that this year, right? Anyway, so just I'll put those links in there. You guys can check him out, hear what he had to say for yourself or whatever, and then go from there. But this is not going to get any better. Fitzpatrick is not a very good quarterback. He's average. He's an average quarterback. He's got, you know, a lot of, you know, he's got a few things that he does well, but he makes far too many mistakes, mental errors, so on and so forth. You'll see the other dude, and he did like film breakdown too, which was really great, and part of the reason why I really liked it. And he did really well. And Josh Rosen, I mean, he's got, you know, a lot of talent, a lot of potential. He's gonna have here in Miami, he's gonna have a lot of the same problems that he did last year, like you know, a not good offensive line, but this time he has a veteran quarterback ahead of him that he's got to battle with. Also, I mean, the coaching staff is in flux, which there's you know, the breaking news is a little bit about that, which I'll get to in a minute though. Like, I mean, it's not gonna get any better. It's not going to get any better. I'm telling you, and I hate to say that, right? Like, but and again, for like the millionth time, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope one day I get to say that. But as of right now, at this particular moment in time, with all the information that we have, it's just irrational to add it all up and say that, you know, we're gonna, I mean, look, I don't personally expect us to win more than 3 games, unfortunately, this year. And, you know, all the odds makers and most of the media and, you know, so on and so forth agrees. Now, Does that necessarily mean anything? No, of course there are always, you know, upsets and surprise teams. I just don't think it's going to be us this year, unfortunately. So, anyway, an off day today will come in useful for Miami to collect their breath, recalibrate, and attack the upcoming week with a renewed focus after the first salvo of practices favored Fitzpatrick. This big question from here is, when do the Dolphins decide to give Josh Rosen reps with the first team? Through the first week, has been predominantly Fitzpatrick taking those reps, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so anyway, you get it. They struggled, and unfortunately, like I said, I don't think that's going to be, you know, something that gets any better. Also, too, one of the big notes is that our depth at linebacker is going to be potentially a problem, right? So just another quick article. Linebackers Kiko Alonso, Jerome Baker, and Raekwon McMillan are all returning starters after a mixed bag of results in 2018. But with Flores at the helm instead of Gase, the hope is that more production and a higher impact can be found on the second level of the Dolphins defense this season. The early returns suggest one thing: Miami has more depth at the position. Or, I'm sorry, linebacker depth is a strength, not struggling. My fault. I misread that. Misspoke. So that's a good thing, though. And like I said, like I've been saying, I think I actually really like our linebackers going into this year, including the starting trio and so on and so forth, right? Baker had a strong rookie season and has hit the ground running in camp so far as Miami's defensive play caller in the huddle. After a hesitant rookie year, from a personality perspective, Baker's leadership is shining in a big way. It seems as though Alonso is staying steady like he has since he came to the Dolphins in a trade in 2016. We generally know what we're going to get with Alonso, for better or for worse. But where the evaluation of Miami's linebackers gets interesting is the usage of McMillan and former CFL linebacker Sam Aguavian. Aguavian was running with the first team defense over McMillan for the first 3 days before McMillan was back at first team linebacker on day 4 of camp. Having a battle at middle linebacker is great for the defense once someone wins the job. These two will push each other while also giving this team some much needed depth. To top it off, rookie Andrew Van Ginkel has made some plays early on as well, which brings the Dolphins to a total of 5 linebackers that likely find a role on this team, not counting the 2 battling injuries, Mike Hull and Chase Allen. Needless to say, which by the way, Chase Allen I believe was also put on PUP. Needless to say, the linebacker position is looking much different than it did last season between the growth of the 2 young players in McMillan and Baker and the newcomers Van Ginkel and Aguavian. In just one off-season, the Dolphins front office has managed to find depth and hopefully fix one of the biggest issues of the team, the run defense. If the Dolphins wish to compete, they need much improved play from the defensive line and the linebackers this season. So far, those positions have shown to be the biggest improvement. And while I do actually agree with that a lot, like I said, I really like our linebackers going into this year. And I do think, again, that the defense is going to be a strength of ours. They're completely neglecting the offense. I mean, anyway, because look, you know, they say defense wins championships. He's obviously a defensive-minded head coach, so on and so forth. But you got to have balance, because again, it's just like the shit about the quarterback talk, right? Everybody puts so much hype and focus onto that, but it's 11 men on the field at one time. You need all of them to do their job, right? So it's the same thing. You can't just rely on your defense each and every game. All game. They are going to get worn down, and then eventually they're going to bend. Eventually they will break if it gets, you know, if things don't get balanced out correctly. And we've seen this time and time again, right? So while I do think that's wonderful and that's a good, you know, thing to build on for now and into the future, again, they've completely, you know, neglected the offensive line. They did not address it adequately. In fact, I think they got worse. And then, you know, I think they got worse at quarterback. You know, I think that the receivers are great. I think our tight ends are going to be great. I think, you know, I like our tight end group. I think that our running backs are great. I think, you know, we're good in all the skill positions, but the 2 areas on offense where it does matter the most, quarterback and then, or first offensive line and then quarterback, I mean, it's not looking very pretty at this point. And so, you know, we're going to have immense struggles, especially then when you add in the additional news that was broken today. So apparently the Dolphins have fired offensive line coach Pat Flaherty and promoted analyst Dave DeGuglielmo to offensive line coach. Offhand, I don't know what Dave DeGuglielmo's resume and history is as a coach, but he was only an analyst with the team up to this point. So they're promoting an analyst up there to the offensive line coach position, first of all. So, you know, whatever. But he is a former Patriots coach, so on and so forth. So you can say what you want about that. But this isn't good. Nothing about this is good. Now, he was apparently fired because he could not implement the new system to the offensive line. Now, first of all, I guarantee that has a lot to do with the personnel you have, because you've let, you know, tons of guys walk. The higher caliber guys, some of the higher caliber guys that you did have, you didn't bring in anybody. You completely neglected it in the draft. Aside from the one dude who's not progressing fast enough to be an immediate starter or impact player, right? So, you know, I think that has a lot to do it. But also, you know, there are questions about, well, should we question Brian Flores' ability to, you know, evaluate his staff? It's 1 week into training camp. That actually is a legitimate question. You hired this dude, and from what I can recall, Pat Flaherty did have a pretty nice resume. I mean, most of these coaches actually did have pretty solid resumes, but now you just ousted the dude. So what does that say about you, right? And your ability to evaluate your coaching staff. But regardless of that, whether you want to make a determination on that or not, that's more problems, more adversity now. You just fired your offensive line coach 1 week into training camp. That is not good. Nothing about what is going on with this team right now indicates that there's positive things going on, that they are adequately building for the future. Even they're not setting themselves up to have any success now, nor are they setting themselves up to have success in the future, right? And all of the signs are written on the wall. It couldn't be, to me, any more clear. But there are a lot of people out there that are deluding themselves into thinking that somehow they are going to take this, you know, giant ball of shit, polish it up, and it's going to be something grand and beautiful at the end. It's not. It's a pile of shit, and it's going to remain such. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, that's where all of this is leading. Now, again, because, you know, they do have an opportunity and a chance to prove me wrong. But, you know, with everything, you know, like I said, at this moment, with everything that's going on, it just doesn't point in that direction. The information and the data, you know, people say that our brains are somewhat, you know, like computers or what have you. And look, you know, if you just had a, you know, a computer, whatever, right? You know, a computer that doesn't have like human emotion and stuff like that, you know, and that just goes strictly based off of, you know, mathematical algorithms and stuff like that, right? If you input this data, and this is why the odds makers, because they use, you know, calculated mathematical analysis, you know, when they're evaluating these teams, they have these models that they run through to help them determine this stuff, right? And they're pretty damn good at it. But when you put all this in, like if you put all this information into a computer, boop, 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 beep, bop, and then it spits out this fucking, you know, long list of, or I mean this long, you know, paper, right? Like you'd always see I'm showing my age a little here. Like you'd see in some of these old, you know, science fiction movies, right? Where like you press a couple buttons on this thing and then it to perform an analysis of something or whatever, and then it spits out like this long, you know, super long paper, but then it's got like 3 words on it, right? Anyway, silliness. So, but you put it in there and you just input the data, right? Just the numbers, if you will, right? And then it spits out the most logical, calculated result based off of that information. And when you do that, to me, in my brain, right, because I compared computers to brains, and in this particular case example, my brain is the computer since I'm the one doing the analysis, right? That information doesn't add up to success. It adds up to heartache and misery and failure for this team going forward, unfortunately. Now, again, I hope they prove me wrong. They have an opportunity. Anyway, but so also too, I believe that there may have been some interviews with some coaches. I'll have to double check on that, so don't hold me to it. But if there were, I'll get those at the end of this video as well. But yeah, I mean, it's not good news. It's not good stuff. That particular thing, and it's gonna make this whole thing even worse. I mean, they already had one coach that had to step aside because of health issues. Now they just fired a coach after 1 week of training camp. I mean, this is ridiculous. And look, I know a lot, there's gonna be people that are like, oh well, if he was such a problem, then yeah, you got to get rid of him now, get rid of him early so you can get it corrected. Sure, there is that perspective, but it's 1 week into training camp and you just fired your offensive line coach. So what does that say about you and your ability to pick coaches? If you're that down on him after 1 week into training camp, like you weren't able to figure that out, prior to picking him for the position, right? Like, for example, to juxtapose a little bit, that is something that you can determine, right? You can check the resume and their work history, their body of work as a coach and so on and so forth, and determine, hey, you know what, this is the guy I want. And they did determine that. But now, apparently, they're like, no, not really. But when you look at, like, let's say the offensive line coach that got fired under Adam Gase, that was for something that was completely uncontrollable and something that you very realistically would not be able to find out. Like, so, I mean, because even if you had any kind of reason to believe that the dude might have had a problem with coke, if you asked the dude, it's very likely that he would have denied it. And so if that's the case, and then if you're just like, okay, I believe you, I trust you, and you hire him, well then, what are you gonna do? What can you do, right? If unless you had, like, solid verifiable evidence, but if it's just hearsay, if somebody was like, hey man, I think this dude might have a problem with coke, and then you ask him and he reassures you that he doesn't, then you'll still end up having to fire him later on in the season because he did coke on his desk in the facility. So but that's something that, but Adam Gase, but that's something that he couldn't, he could not figure out, or very unlikely could figure out prior to hiring the guy. You can figure out whether this is going to be a coach that you want on your team, and who's going to be able to implement the system prior to you hiring the dude. These are things, because this is a question about the quality of coach and his abilities as a coach. That had something to do with, that had nothing to do with him being a coach. That was a personal problem as a person, right? Off the field kind of shit, right? I mean, he was doing it in the building, but other than that, it's not related to football whatsoever, or his abilities as a coach, right? This is all on his abilities as a coach. So it does raise the question, do you, as a head coach, have the ability to evaluate properly? And with this move, look, even I, with as much as I disagree with the things that they've done and so on and so forth, I didn't have the question in my head up till now about whether Brian Flores has the ability. In fact, I was giving him all of the benefit of the doubt, if there was any, saying that each and every one of the guys that he brought in had good resumes and experience and so on and so forth. But now there is the question, and it does exist, well, do you have the ability to, properly evaluate? It does exist now. So anyway, with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to check to see if there are some coach interviews that are available, and if so, I'll put those at the end of the video. Also, I'll try and find the links to the other dudes' videos for the analysis of Josh Rosen and Ryan Fitzpatrick, so look out for those. Those links will be in the description box. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got some things to do, so I got to book it. But I'll see y'all soon. If you do like my videos, if you like my videos and my perspective, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, though, most importantly. And also leave your question, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. I love interacting with y'all. And with that, I'll see y'all soon. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter. And with that, I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
Let's start with Balaj.
Okay.
How would you classify his camp so far? What is he showing you?
Well, I think, he's working hard, and he's done a great job in the classroom. He's bringing it out onto the field, and he's putting himself in a position to compete, and that's what we want them all to do. I think all the guys are doing a good job with that.
And what about Kenyon Drake?
I would tell you the same thing. We're early on in this thing, and they're doing everything they can to be prepared to come out on the field, because if you don't know what to do, then you can't perform on the field, and they're all working at that and coming out here, and they've done a great job with that, and so that's creating competition, which is what we want.
And Mark Walton?
It's no different. It's a great room. These 6 guys that I have in this room, and you can go through all of them. You can go to Drake, Balaj, Kenneth Farrow, Mark Walton, Miles Gaskin, Patrick Laird. These are great kids that work hard. They're passionate about this game, and they all come to work every day. And that's going to give every one of them a chance to compete when they come out here, and that's all we can ask for.
Now, we've seen Balaj get an awful lot of work this camp so far. How much should we read into that?
Well, we're trying to figure out everybody's role on here. So we're going to move people around. There's going to be people moving around and doing things at different times. Sometimes it's plays on the script, but we want guys to go in and compete. And so we're going to put them in positions to compete, and it may be a play here, maybe 2 plays there. I don't know. It changes every day. It changes. There's no set rotation of what we're doing.
Obviously, Balaj has about 20 pounds on Drake. What does that offer for you in terms of power running, goal line situations, things like that? It's got to be a big advantage.
Those things?
Yeah.
I mean, Drake's got 20 less pounds than him, so, I mean, he's got some advantages to having 20 less pounds, too. So, the thing is they all have different skill sets, and what we're trying to do is figure out how we can utilize their skill sets to give us the best chance to win. That's all we want to do.
Has it been fun for those guys to run behind a fullback for a change?
I think it will be, but it takes time to do that when you haven't done that. It's different to have another guy closer to you, and he's got to make decisions. There's a trust that builds in that. Chandler's done a great job coming in here and starting yesterday in pads right away. Physical with his pad level. We'll all get better at that, and we'll get better feeling him and what's going on. But I think it just adds a whole nother dimension to our offense and the capabilities and what defenses have to prepare for.
Is it possible that fullbacks will make sort of a comeback in this league? Because for a while, it was like they didn't exist.
You shaking your head no.
Well, no, that's not a no. They're just hard to find. They're hard to find guys because the job description is not great. It takes a special person to want to go in there, play after play, and smash it in there, and that's what you got to look for, and that's what those guys do. But when you can find one and they're dependable, they can make a difference for your football team. And we think Chandler's on that road. We just got to keep developing and getting better and see if that's how it ended up playing out.
I apologize if you've answered this already, but what is the next step for Kenyon Drake? You spent a year with him already. What does he need to do to get his game to the next level?
Well, I think there's different things every week, every day that come out. Well, to take his game to the next level, he's got to continue to work, to continue to develop, find other things that he can do to use his skill set. It's not a magic formula. It's just we got to keep working to get better. That's all of us. That's not him. There's just all of us to go to the next level. We got to keep working and keep working. We can't stay, we're good today, so tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday. It just doesn't work that way.
It seems like he's been a third down back most of his career, using that situational role. How does he do more?
Play on first and second down. I mean, we played him a bunch on first and second down last year, so I don't think he's a third down back. But he's going to determine what that role is by what he does out here. We're not pigeonholing him and say he only does this. We got to put these guys out here, and we got to see what they can do. They'll show us what they can do, and then they'll determine what the roles are and how they do everything.
With Walton, what does he need to do to make this football team?
I mean, I hate to say it this way. He just got to keep working and establish what his role is and how he can contribute. I don't know what that is. I don't want to say I'm looking for him to do this. That might be limiting him. You know what I mean? He's going to demonstrate to us what he can do, and if there's things that fit into how we see the offense being built and developing, and he's part of that, then he is, and that he'll establish that. We won't determine that and put him in a hole.
Different teams have different philosophies when it comes to running backs. Some like to have the so-called workhorse back. Others maybe go with situations and different roles, things like that, or maybe go play to play. I don't know. What is your philosophy and Brian's philosophy toward that?
Put the best players on the field that give us the best chance to win. And that's a fact. Whoever gives us the best chance on Sunday, that's who we need to have out there that gives us a chance to win. And then we got to do things around them to make them successful, whoever that is.
And that may change week to week or play to play?
But, I mean, there's so many things that could change, right? It could be week to week. It could be injury situations, this and that. But somebody's got to be out there, and somebody's got to give us the best chance to win. And so we got to get them prepared. They got to demonstrate that we can trust them. They're accountable. We got to put them in positions to be successful, and that's what we're all doing out here. We're trying to establish all those things now. That's what these practices are for.
I know it's only been 4 days, but you seem, just by hearing you talk, you're pleased with the work that they're putting in, the way that they're going about the job.
Yeah, I really am. I think these guys have tremendous work ethic. I think they're smart. They're dedicated. They're clearly putting the time in the classroom. I think it shows out here that they're able to come out and execute the assignments, and now we're seeing can they do it physically, and that's the next part of the whole transition.
And it seems like that's been limiting their mental mistakes or physical mistakes because there hadn't been all that many out there.
No, I mean there's some, and that's why we practice. We practice so that we can. Some of them are learning situations that we can learn from. Some of them are mistakes for whatever reason, but that's why we practice. And so what we got to do is we got to find the guys that don't make the mistakes, the ones we can trust on. And again, they're going to establish their roles by those kind of things. Those are the guys that end up kind of rising to the top.
About the overall competition between everybody at the position.
Yeah, I mean that position is about flexibility. So they got to block, they got to be effective in the pass game. Got to do some pass protection when asked to do that. So it's all about versatility. Each one of them has their different strengths. So we try to utilize that as much as we can. But at some point, they're all going to have to do, what that position requires.
Dwayne is obviously missing the starting camp, but is it less significant considering he's a veteran who's been around the block, so it's easier for him to catch up?
Well, yeah, every year's a new year, and we got a new group of guys that everybody's got to kind of mesh with, not just in our room, but mesh with the offensive line, mesh with the quarterback. It's kind of like everybody in camp right now where everybody's trying to build the chemistry and then build their skill set to be the best they can during the season. So it's early right now, and that's how we're taking it, one day at a time.
What skill sets have you seen from Clive Wofford and Nick O'Leary and Durham Smythe that you feel that can help you this season?
Yeah, well, they all got different skill sets to help us out. They all are actually doing well in the passing game. That's it's the second day of pads, so we'll see eventually where that leads us to. But through a few days of OTAs and into these first couple days of early training camp, it's been mainly a pass game. So they all got a certain area that they can help us. Their experience of last year will help out too. So,
George,
from there.
I was going to mention to you, I know one thing you told us a couple months ago was you like to maximize players to their strengths in terms of emphasize what they do well in games.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to develop them in all areas. With that in mind, can you hide a player who's not a good blocker at your position, or is there no way you can realistically continue to get through games with a guy who you don't feel is up to par blocking?
Yeah, I mean, at this point in camp, we're really trying to build and then evaluate. So, it's the second day of pads. It's a new year, so we're building the techniques from spring without pads and now trying to apply them. Then, as we get later on into spring or into the end of the preseason, then we start saying, hey, maybe we're better off doing this or that. But like I was saying earlier, at some point, everybody's going to be called to pass, block. Everybody's going to be called to run a pass route. Everybody's going to be called to run. You build tendencies by just doing one thing. So we're not going to do that. And like I said, at some point, they're all going to have to do what's required at the position.
And since it's 2 days in, I guess there's no way of knowing if Gesicki has improved as a blocker. He's obviously put on weight.
Yeah, well, There's a lot of tape out there. We're blocking. So
Okay, and it's looked how so far to you?
I mean, through 2 days, like I said, we're still like in the beginning phases. So everybody's done good at some point, poorly at others. I'd say he falls in the same mix as everybody else in that group.
One guy with 1 year experience, another guy with a couple years, and another guy with 15 who's quite
That's a good one.
Everybody in the room.
That's a good one. It is pretty challenging, you know. I think it's really good though. You know, Ryan's been around a long time, obviously, and then I would say not just the years, but the experiences in different systems and stuff. And so, you know, his breadth and wealth and knowledge is really good in our room. And, you know, I think we all have a good relationship with one another. So I know as working with those guys, it's far from, hey, I'm the only one talking for an hour. Sometimes that happens on occasion, but we have a good dialogue amongst ourselves, amongst everybody, and there's good questions going around the room with Josh and with Jake and with Fitz and with everybody else. So it's been really fun and really interesting. It's challenging because people are at different levels, but that's just the way it always goes. And so, you know, sometimes you got to try to, I would say the goal is to work everyone up to the level of the highest we could go and not work downward, you know what I mean? So it's constantly a challenge on maybe the younger guys a little bit, but that's a good thing.
I was going to say it's probably a challenge because how do you evaluate a guy who, of course, is going to look good because he's seen it all? And then
Yeah,
trying to get him up to
we're definitely evaluating on a daily basis, but I think we have also a long-range evaluation in mind, and so I think that's really important, you know?
Is part of the challenge not to lose Fitzpatrick to where you're boring him with stuff he already knows?
Yeah, I don't think we've worried about that yet. And he's very engaging and he's got a lot of good questions, and so you really got to be prepared when, you know, for all those guys, because they all ask really good questions. And so so far, I hope we're not boring everybody, because it's been really fun, and there's been so much material to cover that you don't really have a lot of time for, you know, look, little faces like, oh, I've heard this already, you know. It's because it's all for all of us. We were just saying this the other day, for all of us, you know, the four of us have never been together before, and so like, even though maybe Ryan has a little experience in this system, none of us have ever been together before, so we're still all learning from each other and figuring things out.
Jerry, why through 4 days has Ryan gotten the vast majority of first-team quarterback snaps as opposed to evenly splitting them with Josh?
Yeah, actually, it's actually, when you look at the whole thing, it's pretty even in the midst of all the team reps and all that stuff, because there's some other periods involved in there. But you know, when Josh came in, you know, he was, you know, whatever it was, 4 weeks we had already started, and so, you know, the way it is with the rules, you only get the limited time to work, and so I think this training camp has been a good opportunity for him to learn and grow in our systems from the ground up, as opposed to just catching everything on the fly. And so Ryan's, you know, experience and knowledge in that area, you know, in terms of an operational standpoint, may have been, you know, ahead a little bit at this stage when we first started training camp, but really the reps are pretty even.
But is that one reason, though, why we've seen Ryan open with the first team all 4
pretty
days?
Much, yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Is Josh way behind Ryan? Obviously, I know it's 4 days of camp, and there are weeks to go in this.
Yeah.
But would you say Josh is way behind Ryan at this point in terms of knowledge of the offense, what needs to be done to run this offense?
I think we're all still learning together. Nobody's perfect on anything. There's plenty of mistakes that are going around, and plenty of good things that everybody's doing. And so in terms of who's behind, who's ahead, I mean, really, I'm sure Flo said something of this. We're all just trying to compete and get better every day. And so, you know, I understand, like, things got to be done and positions have to be made and decisions have to be made, but really we're just trying to work harder every day and get better, and everyone's really in the same boat. You know, nobody's perfect. There's mistakes out there to go around. There's good stuff, and that's really what it is.
You have 6 proven veteran receivers. You got some talented young guys obviously here as well. How tough is this going to be to whittle this down to whatever number the franchise needs to whittle it down to on Labor Day?
It's going to be really tough. It's when you have a situation like I have, that's what you want anyway. You want it to be tough. You want to make sure that you're putting pressure with the guys that were already here to keep them getting better and improving on their skill set. and then you want the young guys to be talented enough to be able to push those guys, and if anything, maybe even overtake them at some point too. So it's really good competition at the group. Like you said, it's pretty deep. I'm excited about. I like our young talent with the young guys that we brought in. I think when we added Allen a couple days ago, that's good veteran talent that he's here, along with the other guys that were older that were already here. So it's a good mix. It's a good mix of guys that are trying to fight for some spots. And you're right, there's only shortly a little more than a handful of guys we're going to end up keeping, and there's 10 guys or 11 guys out there, so they're all fighting for a spot.
And your first 3 months with Devontae, how do you think he's looked? Has there been an emphasis on maybe trying to high point the ball, to use his size to his advantage?
Absolutely. That's definitely part of it. He's a guy that, he does create some problems because of his size, and that's some of the stuff that he's been improving on in the offseason, which you guys have noted. But, there's a lot of other things that I want him to be good at as well. So, if he's going to be a dynamic player in this league, he's got to be multifaceted in a lot of different ways. And he's accepted that challenge. He wants to do that. He wants to be that type of player. And I'm very excited about how he progressed to this point, and now we're trying to get him ready to play.
Carl, what are you looking to see out of Jakeem, Albert, and Allen early in camp as they're coming back from injuries?
All of those guys are kind of transitioning at different levels back from injury, like you mentioned, and I'm pleased with their efforts and how they're trying to get back. They're all at different stages about where they're at, but Jakeem, you mentioned early, in your question, he's doing really well. He's had, of those 3 guys, he's had most of the reps so far in camp, and he's really kind of, surprising us and doing the things that we already saw him do, in his past, but to fit himself in our offense and be able to do some of the things that we're asking him to do, he's been doing those things pretty well. Albert's doing well too. From where he was late in the spring into where he is now, he's getting on the field. He's kind of where actually Jakeem was in the spring, just kind of gradually picking up the pace as we go. Albert's doing that. He's in that mode right now, and he's he'll be ready to go, and I think in due time as well. And then Allen's actually recovered. He's full, ready to go. Obviously, he's trying to get himself back in playing shape and tuning up his game. So it's good to have a good veteran presence like him. So I'm, like I said earlier when we opened this whole discussion, I'm very pleased with the level of veteranship in this group and the young players in this group.
Carl, obviously Stills can play boundary and slot. You obviously have Phins now in slot as well. Do you see value for Stills in the slot? He's done a lot of good work from that position.
Absolutely, and he's done those things before. And Kenny's kind of our versatile player where we can play inside and out, and he has the speed to do that. And he's accepted that, and he understands what we're trying to get out of him in our offensive scheme. So we have just a lot of options. That's really what needs to be said, is that we have some guys with different size levels. You guys had mentioned like Preston at 6'4.5". He's a big kid, and obviously Devontae's a big kid. So we just have a good range of players from big to small and all different speeds and different skill sets. So it's fun for me as their position coach. It's a fun problem to have. It really is.
I know you guys don't want to make any kind of excuses. When you do have new quarterbacks working with the receivers, is there a learning curve that you have to allow for a little bit there?
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. We're not going to make any excuses about that. And there is. We're sometimes as receivers, you got to get used to the different arm in terms of how the ball comes off his hand. The timing and how he throws, and then on the quarterback perspective is that he's getting used to a different group of receivers that he's not quite used to throwing to. So there is some timing that both sides of the coin need to work on to get better. And that's why we practice, and that's why they do the little extra work that they do after practice, is try to get on the same page about what it should time up to be and what it should look like, and also to point out some ideas about how to run a route, or this is where I want the ball when you throw this route. You know what I mean? So I think there's some learning curve on both sides of that.
Chris Reed, he spent most of the OTAs as a first-team left guard. You had him in Jacksonville. What does he bring to the table?
Well, he's a versatile guy, and again, he's been in the league a few years now, so he's worked at center and guard. Okay, mostly his last year, I would say, in Jacksonville, he started being a transition to a center a little bit the year before that when I got there, but before that he didn't play any center. So he still has some learning curves with techniques, not with assignments. He's a smart guy. but we need him to be versatile on game day as well as anybody. Again, it's the same type of situation. There's competition at left guard. Nothing's been solidified. You know, I tell them each and every day at the offensive line, listen, you guys will develop, all right, the depth chart. Okay, we as a staff will give you, all right, what the depth chart is, but your play dictates it.
I know it's only been 2 days in pads, Coach, but the play of Michael as a rookie, what have you seen out of him, the good qualities, and what have you seen him do?
Well, John, that's a great question. You know, that is good and bad, okay? And, you know, you see flashes, okay? You see that's why we drafted him, okay? But he is a long ways away, gentlemen. He's a long ways away of being where Michael's going to be a good NFL player. Now, that's not saying that, you know, through the next couple weeks he cannot gain some little ground. That's what we expect him to do. And then we'll see where he's at when it comes to week 1. But I'll say this, that, you know, the guys I have in that room are hard workers. I think they're tough, physical guys. And when you have that type of mentality, all right, you have a good opportunity to get better and possibly win a job.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we miss Jim Caldwell. He's a wonderful coach and even more of a better human being. So we miss him as a person, and he was a valuable member of our staff. But one of the great things about our staff is we have a strong staff, a lot of experience on the offensive staff, and we certainly are going to use the entire staff in different roles, in different ways, and use their strengths, because we certainly have a strong staff, and I really look forward to working with all those guys.
Is that a reason why another assistant or maybe engaging in another assistant hasn't happened yet?
Yeah, I think that when you have the staff that we do in place, they have a lot of experience with different positions, and they're able to work and cross-work with different positions. So, again, we're very fortunate to have a strong coaching staff, one that I enjoy working with every day. We certainly miss Jim, and we think about him often, but we feel real good about the staff we have in place and the ability to coach the players that we do.
You worked with Jerry the last couple of years. What is it about him that makes him kind of ready for this kind of
Yeah, obviously I have a lot of familiarity with Jerry Shaplinski. He did a great job for us at New England, and we were very fortunate to have him here with us working. He's a great communicator. He's got a great personality to work with the position. He's got a tremendous knowledge of our system, which is very important, and he's someone that I really trust and I really lean on for his expertise and his ability to communicate with the quarterbacks, and we're very fortunate to have Jerry here on staff.
Chad, how would you say that quarterback competition is at right now?
Yeah, I think the quarterback competition, it's been competitive. We've asked both of those guys to come in, and the goal is to improve daily, and I believe that we have. There's areas that they both need to improve in. There's areas that they've both done really well in. So I think that right now it's competitive. Right now all positions are competitive on our roster, so I don't think anything right now is set in stone. There's no starters. There really aren't. There's a lot of players that are working for roles on the team, and we ask the team to do whatever's best for the team, and certainly they've done that. They've worked hard, so we've been happy with all the things that they've done that we've asked them to do. And, you know, like I said, nothing's set in stone, and that's true of all positions right now.
We've seen Ryan get to work with the ones, I think, every day. Do you need to see Josh get some of that work with the ones at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now what we've told all positions is they're going to work with different groups. They'll have the opportunity to work with, you know, all players, whether they're starters or backups. So we don't even look at it right now as, hey, this guy's going to take all the first team reps. We just look at it as we're going to have the opportunity to work with different players, and that way, obviously, if we need to play with those certain players at different positions, and the quarterback's not always in there with the first group, we'll be better in the end. So they'll both have opportunities to work with, you know, our entire offensive group.
What can you tell about your offense right now, even though there's a lot of
Yeah, I can tell this about the offense. It's a group that's embraced everything that we've asked them to do. They've worked extremely hard. They've been very diligent in the meeting room. They've come out to the practice field, and they truly have tried to have an edge. It's a group that wants to prove something. It's a group that wants to play good, quality football. But I've been very pleased with their work ethic. I've been very pleased with their roles and how they've accepted the team approach here. Yeah, I mean, as Coach Flo has told the team, that the more you can do, the better. And if a defensive player can come help the offense, he's going to. And if we ever have an offensive player that can help the defense, he's going to do so. I mean, it's great to have Christian. We worked with him, on the offense today. But certainly all players have an opportunity to create their role based on what they can do. And the more you can do here, the more you're going to help the team.
Coach, in some of the live action we've seen, the defensive line has gotten some pressure on the offensive line, gotten into the backfield. What are some things you guys need to do to shore up the middle of the
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas that we need to improve on, and there's a lot of areas that we've done well. I mean, there's times, we've had not as much consistency in certain areas, and that's what we talked to the team about, is just having the consistency in all the areas, and that's what we're working to. That's what we're striving to be, is to be a consistently good offensive football team who takes care of the football, who plays well under pressure, who plays together as a team, and who plays with an aggressive mindset, and that's what we're trying to do. I think that we've come out here and we've tried to play with great effort, and we have. It's certainly, we have a long way to go, but the thing we've done as well as anything, looking at our team right now, is we've played with tremendous effort, and there truly is a really good attitude on this football team. I've been very impressed with a lot of players. There's been a lot of skilled players that have really come in and really done well within their role, and I can't say enough about our coaching staff. With a new system and a new scheme, how hard they have worked, and it's been tough and it's been a grind, but they worked so hard to try to get this group on the field and playing at the level that we want. So I can't say enough about the job that they've done for us.
How has Josh responded to coaching, and how's it been working with him?
Yeah, Josh has been excellent. I mean, since day one, he's come in here. He's done a good job learning the offense. He has accepted our offense, embraced what we do. Obviously, he has a familiarity with other systems, but he understands this is the system we're going to run here, and he's been excellent in the meeting room. He's tried to do on the field what we want him to do, and like it is with him, it's a work in progress, and all positions are working to improve, and he's no different.
Coach, as far as the depth at wide receiver, this week you bring in Allen Hurns. Can you kind of speak to the depth at that position?
Yeah, we do have some depth at this position I'm really excited about. It's very competitive. I mean, with the addition of Allen, we have a really good group, a solid group, one of which that every day I walk out on the field I'm real excited about. Obviously, it's an area that I have some familiarity with and coaching that position for a number of years. So I'm really excited about this group. I think we have a skilled group. I think we have guys that have different skill sets. And I know that the quarterbacks are really starting to gain a lot of confidence in these guys. And a lot of that is because of their work ethic. They have good intangibles, they work hard. And again, they try to do what we ask them to do, and that's all we can do at this point, is to keep it getting better and improving.
Chad, I'm sorry if you were asked this earlier. I might have missed it. What must Josh Rosen do to earn more first-team reps?
Yeah, I think at this point, we really aren't looking at this, and this is true of every position. We're looking at opportunities regardless of where you get them. So regardless if you're with the first team or second team, we're looking at opportunities. We're going to mix in groups, all through the training camp. So there's such a long way to go right now that what we're asking our players, and what can Josh and what can all of our other players do at this point, it's just to go out there and try to do their job, do what we've asked them to do, execute it at a level where we really trust them, and regardless of what group they're in, that's the task at hand. So really there's a long way to go. We don't even look at it right now as anything set in stone, because it's not. We're going to have all players have an opportunity to play with all other different players. So I think it's a long training camp, and we'll.
What is something that Josh has improved in since his arrival?
I think he's improved in the knowledge of the system. It's obviously it's a system. Any system in the NFL, regardless of what it is, if it's new, it's challenging to learn. So it doesn't matter if it's our system or the next system. You come in and you have to learn the language. Okay, it's a totally different language, and he's done a great job. I would say over the break, he's really worked at it. It seems like on his own. He's come in here, he spends extra time. Obviously, Fitzpatrick has been a great person to have in the room, because he does have some familiarity with this system, and obviously an experienced veteran who can help him along the way. And Fitz has certainly been very good in that role. It's a competitive situation. Those two are competing for a job, but at the same time, I think Fitz and Josh understand the power of team and being a great teammate. And that's what I see on a daily basis is those guys interact with each other and they're really good teammates to each other.
Are you going to be a field guy or a box guy? Have you decided?
We still have a lot of decisions to make on that, so we have some time before the first game, and we'll see what works best for us. We don't have anything set in stone right now.
Did you spend a lot of time in the box or down the field?
I was on the field in New England.
And do you like that? I'm sorry, Omar. Do you like that vantage point down there?
I think it's different for the role you're in, so we'll see kind of what works best for our staff.
Chad, how do you prepare for play calling, and how do you embrace it?
Yeah, I think the thing about play calling is, you got to lean on the coaching staff around you, and certainly I've said that today is how confident I am in our coaching staff. We have some guys that I've worked with previously. We have some guys that I haven't worked with previously that I'm so impressed with, and I just really enjoy working with, and I respect their expertise. So what I'm going to do as a play caller is really lean on them, lean on the power of our staff, and obviously I think there's a lot that has to do with play calling that leads up to that. The preparation, the expertise of the scheme, all those things go into. I'm simply the messenger on game day.
But you have a second to be that messenger.
Yep.
Do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think it's something that's ongoing, and it's something that we work on daily. Obviously, I'm in a different role as a play caller, so it's something that being a different role for me, we work extremely hard on, whether it's in a mock setting in a meeting room or on the field. Coach Flo has done a good job of setting us up in situations that would try to, work on that area. So that's what we're doing, and that's true of all areas right now.
So preseason games are important for you personally?
Yeah, I think the preseason games are important for me. They're important for this team.
Right.
I think they're obviously a valuable part of our process of building an offense.
I don't know if you covered this earlier. I'm sorry if you did. But I was going to ask you your philosophy toward the running back rotation. Some guys like to go with the workhorse philosophy, and some rotate on who's hot.
No, it's a great question, and it's one we're still evaluating. And it's one we're still looking. And I would say that's true of all positions. You can say, hey, what's the rotation? And that's something we talk about daily as a coaching staff of what we think is going to be best for our football team and what rotation works best. The thing is, whenever you're talking about a rotation, that means you have some depth at the position. So that's what excites me. I mean, you would have not asked the question about rotation if we didn't have multiple people at that position. So I'm really excited about the running backs. They're a group led by Eric that has come out here and really impressed me. They work their butts off out here just like a lot of other positions, and certainly I'm really excited about that group.
What gives you confidence that the offensive line is going to be better than what we've seen out of that group?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's like we tell the team, at all positions you have to come out here and take action and prove it. So obviously the offensive line is come out here, and just like other positions, there's been some times where we've had some real positives, and then there's times we want more consistency, and that's true of all positions. I mean, so I have a lot of confidence in those guys, and spent the spring with them, and now spent the early part of training camp. It's really a group that I like. I think they work hard, and again, they've come out here and done everything we've asked them to do, and right now that's all we can ask of them.
On the field, one more. I'm sorry, more. On the field, what has been encouraging about what you've seen?
Well, I think that there's been some times we've really established the run. There's been some examples of us really protecting the quarterback and staying inside out and being very firm in protection. The communication level on the offensive line, because it's a new system, has gotten better and better, and continuing to grow there. So the area of communication, the area of being able to run the ball and protect the passer are areas that certainly there's been examples of positive things for our offense in that area.
Now getting to the position where you specialize in, wide receivers. In New England, you guys have kind of revolutionized that slot position. Here, you don't really have a defined slot. Is that something that you groom somebody to be, or is that a unit where everybody's going to?
Yeah, I think truly, like I said when I first got here, is that we have to utilize the skill set of our players, and that's true of that position. I mean, I think we have some players that have a skill set to kind of be a multi-position player, and certainly it might be a different look than what I'm used to as far as lining up somebody in the slot, but there's certainly a lot of success we can have based off of the strong, I think it's a strong receiver group, and regardless of where we line them up, we'll be able to kind of put them in position to have success at that position, but I can't say enough about it.
What makes you feel like this is a strong receiver?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a group that I'm familiar with, a position that I'm very familiar with, working all the years at New England, and it's an area that when I look at those guys, I'm really excited about them. You know, I'm never going to make comparisons, and I'm not going to do that at all. I just know that this group right here, there's few days I walk off the field where I don't look back and say I'm really excited about that group. I'm really excited about a lot of groups. You know, I mean, the tight end group doesn't get a lot of talk around here, but I say like Nick O'Leary is as dependable of a player as we've had through the offseason, and he's done a great job. Mike's working hard in his role to be the player that he needs to be, and you know, Durham Smythe's trying to be the blocker that we know he can be. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives in a lot of different positions. It's just our job and their job to create their role. You know, they're basically going to create the role, and that's true of the slot position too. Whoever can line up in there and do some things is going to be the guy we're going to lean on in there.
This coach, the former coaching staff, invested in Jakeem as a slot in
Yeah.
the first season, and then they scrapped it. They said
Yeah.
it wasn't a good fit for him. Is that something that you guys will try again?
Yeah, I think that what we've told the receivers is, hey, we're going to clean slate this, and we're going to utilize you guys where we think you can, you know, help the offense. And so whether it's inside or outside, whether that's true of Jakeem or, you know, Albert Wilson or Devontae playing inside some, I mean, we're going to use those guys in a multiple position role. So we definitely haven't pigeonholed them into any position. We truly haven't. I mean, you saw today we lined up, you know, our outside receivers inside, or some of our inside receivers outside. So we're going to try to have that mindset to really say, hey, you guys need to learn our offense conceptually. You need to understand the big picture and be able to get lined up at all spots.
At what point do you hope to, I guess, establish that offensive identity of who this team
Yeah,
is?
I think it's an ongoing process. I really do. I don't know, you know, obviously they know what our identity wants to be, and we stress that to them daily, and they come out here and try to be that daily. But I think that, you know, it's a long season, it's a long training camp, and you know, I don't ever want to put a timetable on that, because I think this is ongoing and improvement's ongoing. You'd never stop improving, so we'll just see how far we can go. But they definitely know what the standard is. They know what our expectation is, and it's high. I told them we're not going to waver on that. We're going to have high expectations, and we're just going to work on staying day to day, winning that day, and improving daily.
Chad, to our eyes, Ryan is consistently better than Josh. Is that a fair evaluation?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we evaluate those guys daily, and there's certainly been things that they've both done well. There's some areas of improvement, but we're not going to. You know, that's true of all positions right now. I mean, we walk off the field, we evaluate these guys, we watch every bit of film, including the individual drills as a staff. So we're definitely on top of the evaluation, and we'll stay real close to that. But at this point, it's a long way to go, and it's a competitive situation. And again, they're both working hard to be great teammates and help our football team.
Alright guys, so you've reached the end of my video, you've reached the end of the interviews, and I hope you guys enjoy my video. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section, and as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.